New York nílùú ńlá tó tóbi jù nílẹ̀ Amẹ́ríkà. Kódà iye ènìyàn tó wà níbẹ̀ ló fi ìdá méjì ju ti ìlú Los Angeles lọ. Ó jẹ́ ibùdó fún oríṣiríṣi àṣà, ìgbafẹ́, iṣẹ́ ọnà, ìmọ̀ ẹ̀rọ, òṣèlú, ẹ̀kọ́, ọrọ̀ ajé kódà tó fi máa rẹ́ ìdárayá. New York yìí ló gbàlejò ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ olùdókòwò kárí ayé tó sì fẹsẹ̀ múlẹ̀ gidi gan ni. Ìdí nìyí tí àwọn kan fi máa ń pè é ní olú ìlú orílẹ̀-èdè àgbáyé. Ohun ìdámọ̀ tó gbajúgbajà jù ní New York ní ère òmìnira Statue of Liberty, eléyìí tó ń ṣàfihàn bí ìlú náà ṣe fàyè gba onílé àtàlejò. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni afárá Brooklyn kò lẹ́gbẹ́. Ó kéré tán ẹgbẹ̀rin ní oríṣi èdè tí wọ́n ń sọ ní New York. Èyí ló sì fa bí wọ́n ṣe máa ń sọ pé gbogbo
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as the break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened will have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.
Fellow Nigeria, how to improve your welfare is of paramount importance to me.
Produced and brought to you in a unique way never before seen.
Western Spring
And Western Spring Television. Television is coming home in your color and culture.
We all want to do our best to win for our team. But right now, we're losing to the illegal trade in wildlife. Illegal bushmeat is on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. We've become a centre for ivory and pangolin smuggling, and many of our iconic species are threatened.
Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Here are the top stories of the news. Bandits kill at least 5 people, abduct several others in fresh attack on Katsina community. Appeal court begins hearing of suit challenging Lagos State governorship election petitions tribunal judgment. On the foreign scene, Israeli defense minister says army to have full freedom of action in post-war Gaza. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is FEMI Ojo. We begin with security matters. No fewer than 5 people have died and several others wounded after heavily armed bandits attacked Sayaya village in Matazulu government area of Katsina State. A security official whose name was withheld confirmed the incident to newsmen, noting that a fresh attack came last night. He noted that 7 persons were abducted by hoodlums to an unknown destination The incident is coming barely a day after a similar one happened in neighboring Musawa local government area on Sunday night. Sunday's attack, which happened around 10 p.m., saw bandits invade the Molu celebration ground at Ruga Kusa community, killing and slaughtering 14 persons who attended the celebration. The attack, which is suspected to be a reprisal, lasted over an hour, and the assailant kidnapped not less than 20 residents in the assault. In the meantime, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris Malagi, has cautioned the U.S. mission in Nigeria and other foreign missions in the country against needless security advisories. The minister made this known to reporters in Abuja yesterday, noting that such advisories had far-reaching implications on the general polity as well as the country's economy. Mr. Malagi said the federal government was not resting on its horse to ensure that every inch of land and every citizen, resident, and visitor in the country is secured. On November 3, the U.S. mission alerted its citizens in the country of an elevated threat to major hotels in Nigeria's largest cities and urged its nationals to consider the information when arranging lodging or visiting major hotels in Nigeria. However, the minister said such alerts were needless as President Bola Tinubu was eager to get the country back on track. To legal matters, the Court of Appeal, Lagos Division, has begun the hearing of appeals challenging the judgment of the Lagos State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal, which affirmed the re-election of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The Lagos State Deputy Governor, Bafemi Hamzat, is in attendance with all the members of the ruling Progressive Congress, as well as members of the PDP and Labour Party. The Election Petitions Tribunal had on September 25, 2023, upheld the re-election of APC Sanwo-Olu and his deputy as the duly elected governor of the state. The three-man panel, in its unanimous decision, dismissed the two petitions filed by the People's Democratic Party and its governorship candidate, Olajide Adediran, and that of the Labour Party and its governorship candidate, Rhodes Viva. Ahead of the November 11, 2023 governorship election in Bayelsa State, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has added the name of the candidate of the All Progressives Congress (APC), Femi Presilva, to the final list of candidates for the poll. INEC, the new list published on its website, said the addition of Mr. Silva's name was in compliance with an appeal court judgment delivered on October 31st, which reversed the sacking of his candidacy. In the new list cited by newsmen on Monday, Mr. Silva's name was penciled as APC governorship candidate, whilst that of Masiva Joshua was written as his running mate. The Court of Appeal had in a judgment delivered on 31st October 2023 set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court delivered on the 16th of October 2023, which nullified his candidacy. In another development, presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, has described the Supreme Court judgment that affirmed Bola Tinubu's election as Nigeria's president as a breach of the citizens' trust in the judiciary. The Apex Court had some weeks ago dismissed the appeals of Mr. Obi and that of his People's Democratic Party counterpart, Atiku Abubakar, challenging President Tinubu's victory at the Presidential Election Petition Court. But while reacting to the Supreme Court ruling yesterday, Mr. Obi accused the Apex Court of ignoring evidence which he said further dampened citizens' trust in the judiciary. Despite the Supreme Court verdict, the former Anambra State governor told his supporters that the quest for a new Nigeria has not ended. He revealed that his party, the LP, and the Obedient family have effectively accepted their new role as opposition. Mr. Obi also put forward a proposal for a 5-year single presidential tenure for each of the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria.
Non-compliance to the rules set by INEC itself, as well as matters of perjury, identity theft, and forgery, has been brought to light in course of this election matter. These are hefty allegations that should not have been treated with levity. More apparent, the Supreme Court's judgment willfully condoned breaches of the Constitution relative to established qualifications and parameters for candidates in presidential elections. With this counterintuitive judgment, the Supreme Court has transferred a heavy moral burden from the courtroom to our national conscience. Our young democracy is ultimately the main victim and casualty of the courtroom drama. Without equivocation, this judgment amounts to a breach of confidence of Nigerians have in our judiciary. To that extent, it is a show of unreasonable force against the very Nigerian people from whom the power of the Constitution derives. The Supreme Court's ruling may represent the state of the law in 2023, but not present demand for substantive justice. The judgment meets principles and precedents. Indeed, the rationale and premise of the Supreme Court judgment has been clearly brought to light by deep, revealing, and troubling valedictory remarks of Honorable Justice Musa Datijo Mohammed, JSC, on Friday, 27th, 2023. In disagreeing very strongly with the ruling of both the Presidential Petition Court and the Supreme Court on the outcome of the 25th February presidential election as declared by the Independent Electoral Commission, as Democrats who believe in the rule of law, we recognize that the Supreme Court is the end stage of our quest for legal closure on this.
In other news, an Irish chef, Alan Fisher, is now the record holder for the longest cooking hours after he clocked in a time of 119 hours and 57 minutes. His feat is 24 hours more than that of the previous record held by Nigeria's Hilda Barsi. The Guinness World Record said Alan Fisher from Ireland, an owner and chef of a restaurant in Japan, has broken two cooking-related Guinness World Record titles. The British organization on Tuesday said it first claimed the longest cooking marathon individual after clocking in a time of 119 hours, 57 minutes. Apart from the longest cooking marathon, Mr. Allen also broke the longest baking marathon individual after a time of 47 hours and 21 minutes, while the previous record holder, Wendy Sandner from the United States, had a time of 31 hours and 16 minutes. Elsewhere, the Senate has resolved to facilitate the inclusion of the dredging of River Benue and other river projects in the 2024 appropriation bill to address the perennial flooding and its multidimensional consequences. The lawmakers also urged President Bola Tinubu to facilitate the construction of dams, including the Dasin Hausa Dam, proposing to be in Fufore local government area of Adamawa State, to curtail the potential risk of excessive flood from the Leagdo Dam in Cameroon. They also urged the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to provide relief materials to the victims of the flood and embark on enlightenment on the dangers of crossing rivers before or after rainfall. According to NEMA, in 2022 alone, over 2.41 million people were displaced and over 600 fatalities were recorded, with hectares of farmland across the affected state swept out. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break. Please stay with us.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
You're welcome back. Talking business. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has said it will continue to collaborate with the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NEITI, to review its alleged indebtedness to the Federation. In a statement on Monday, NNPCL Chief Corporate Communications Officer FEMI OJO said the oil company will also work with relevant parties in the Reconciliation Committee set up by President Bola Tinubu to investigate, review, and reconcile the financial records and alleged indebtedness by the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC. He said the decision was reached after an unnamed non-governmental organization, NGO, called for a probe of several monies allegedly owed to the Federation by NNPC. He noted that the NGO's call was baseless, considering the fact that NEITI itself had dismissed many of the allegations in the said 2021 report following a series of engagements with the oil giant. Meanwhile, the Naira crashed against the dollar on Monday, falling to 1,030 Naira per dollar on the average in the parallel market, losing the momentum it gathered last week. This represents an 8.42% decline of the local currency compared to the 950 Naira it closed the week at last Friday. This is also the fourth time the Naira is falling since the Central Bank of Nigeria began to clear some of its forex backlog last week. Currency traders, also known as Bureau de Change operators, told newsmen that the Naira was trading at between 990 Naira to 1,030 Naira per dollar. And outside Nigeria, the International Monetary Fund this morning upgraded its 2023 gross domestic product growth forecast for China to 5.4% from 5%, citing a strong post-COVID-19 recovery, but said the fund still expected the world's second biggest economy slow next year. The IMF, in a press release, said the GDP growth will slow to 4.6% in 2024 because of continued weakness in China's property sector and subdued external demand. The upward revision followed a decision by China to approve a 1 trillion yuan sovereign bond issue and allow local governments to front-load part of their 2024 bond quotas in a move to support the economy. IMF's first Deputy Managing Director, Jita Gopinath, in the statement said the projections reflect upward revisions of 0.4 percentage points in both 2023 and 2024 relative to October, with projections due to a stronger than expected third quarter outturn and recent policy announcements. Still in business, Australia's central bank raised interest rates to a 12-year high on Tuesday, ending 4 months of steady policy, but left it open on whether even more tightening will be needed to bring inflation to heel. Wrapping up its November policy meeting, the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, raised its cash rate by 25 basis points to 4.35%, saying recent data suggested that there was a risk inflation will remain higher for longer. RBA Governor Michelle Bullock, in a statement, said whether further tightening of monetary policy is required to ensure that inflation returns to target in a reasonable time frame will depend upon the data and the evolving assessment of risk. This was a step back from the October decision, which stated that some further tightening may be required, and was taken by market as a sign this might be the last hike of the cycle. As a result, the Australian dollar slid 0.8% to 0.6435 to a dollar, and bond futures rallied as investors lengthened the odds on a further rise in December. Away from business to the war on Gaza. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has said at the end of the year, the Israeli army will have full freedom of action in Gaza without limitations on operations. Speaking at a special session of the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Security Committee, the minister stated that the security system his leadership is focused on two key things: victory in the war and returning the hostages. His comments come after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in an interview with ABC News on Monday, said Israel will take responsibility for security in Gaza for an indefinite period. Meanwhile, the Israeli army says over the past day, its soldiers took control of a Hamas stronghold in the northern Gaza Strip. The death toll in Israel's war on Gaza passed 10,000 yesterday, with the toll at 10,022, with at least 4,104 children killed. Meanwhile, in Asia, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese today met Chinese Premier Li Qiang in Beijing, restarting an annual leaders' dialogue that Albanese said will continue as relations between the trading partners stabilized. Mr. Albanese is in China in his first visit by an Australian leader in 7 years after a diplomatic dispute put a halt to one's annual meetings of leaders. President Xi Jinping had on Monday said cable ties between China and Australia served each other's interests, and both should expand cooperation, sending a clear signal that China was ready to move on from recent tensions. Mr. Albanese, in his opening remarks to Premier Li at the Great Hall of the People, said the fact that these meetings are now going to continue is very important for their relations. China has lifted trade blocks on most Australian exports that were imposed in 2020 in the wake of Australia's call for an international investigation into the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. Talking sport, Iga Swiatek thrashed Jessica Pegula to win the season-ending WTA finals and move back to the top of the women's rankings. The Pole needed to beat the American in the final in Cancun to overtake Aryna Sabalenka as world number one, and she did so with a dominant 6-1 6-0 win. The 22-year-old was in clinical mood as Pegula struggled to find a range in a match lasting just 59 minutes. It is the first time Swiatek has won the WTA Finals tournament, and she becomes youngest champion of the tournament since Petra Kvitova's 2011 win at the age of 21. Swiatek, speaking after the game, thanked her team, who she said had been with her for the whole season. She said 2022 was so amazing that she doesn't know if it is going to be possible for her to repeat a season like that.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for shouting our names and everything. Really, even though this week has not been easy, you really made it special for us. And okay, I started from the end. I don't know why. Sorry. But yeah, well, Jessie, I wanted to congratulate you for the whole season and for your consistency throughout, all these couple of years. Playing against you has never been easy. So congrats, and hopefully we will both just progress and play many more finals, together, and to your team as well. Also, to all the sponsors, they told me to say it in Spanish, so GNP, right? And sorry, and Gustavos and everybody who made this tournament, possible, even though for sure it was also not easy for you. The ball girls and staff really here in Mexico, because of you, the atmosphere has been really amazing, and all that kindness that we got, and so many friendship bracelets from everybody, really, it's been amazing. So I also want to thank you.
And away from tennis, in the Premier League, Chelsea manager Mauricio Pochettino made a winning return to Tottenham with his former club reduced to 9 men on a night of chaos and controversy. The Argentine's comeback was reduced to a minor subplot by an epic game which brought 5 goals, a further 5 which were disallowed. 2 red cards and a slew of VAR decisions in one of the Premier League's most frenetic ever encounters. Spurs started brilliantly and deservedly went ahead when Dejan Kulusevski's 60-minute goal. Cole Palmer scored a penalty before halftime. Nicholas Jackson then scored a second-half hat-trick. In a fevered atmosphere, Chelsea had 2 goals of their own disallowed one each from Raheem Sterling and Moses Casidio ruled out for handball and offside respectively. The latter situation still led to a Chelsea goal as a penalty was awarded when Spurs' Christian Romero was sent off in the 33rd minute for a crude challenge by an uncompleted Enzo Fernandez before fellow defender Destiny Udogie was sent off after two bookable offense in the 55th minute.
Maurizio, first of all, have you recovered? That was an incredible night.
Yes. We are here, and I'm here because I love this game, football games and this type of game.
You've been involved in some crazy matches throughout your career. How does that one compare, though, this evening?
But I think because we were so competitive, two teams that wanted to win, and Tottenham arrived with full confidence, and for us was a must-win game because we needed a 3-point, and that is why what happened on the pitch after is history, but I think it was an amazing game.
It felt like a match that had everything. 5 goals disallowed, 2 red cards. How did the players manage to sort of keep any sort of semblance of composure in a match like that?
But that is what we need to learn and to, and to be clever in the way that we need to manage and the motion, because now with the VAR start, stop and check in every single situation, I think is about to have better control, and that is we are there to try to help the team, to provide a good tool to manage the best way.
How pleased were you though with the response following that early setback, the early goal?
No, I think important. I think the team start the game too much nervous, and we cannot find to link, start to play. But I think after we concede the goal and disallow the second goal of Tottenham, I think we start to play and similar to Liverpool that we deserve more.
And before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. No fewer than 5 people have died and several others wounded after heavily armed bandits attacked Sayaya village in Matazu local government area of Katsina State. The Court of Appeal Lagos Division has begun the hearing of appeals challenging the judgment of the Lagos State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal, which affirmed the re-election of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. And on the foreign scene, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has said at the end of the war, the Israeli army will have full freedom of action in Gaza without limitations on operations. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Western Spring Television. As you can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. And that ends Spring News at 12. I am FEMI Ojo. Thank you for watching. Good afternoon.